Hello and welcome to another episode of Blue Alpine TV. In today's episode, we will talk about Bitmain, the main producer of ASIC miners in China, and we'll talk about the profits and their general business. And then we'll talk a bit about user interfaces in cryptocurrency exchanges. So let's get started right away. Just as a reminder, don't forget, if you go to bluealpineresearch.com/free-report, you can download a free report that we did on a cryptocurrency. You just have to enter your email and then you will get it for free. And there you can see how we do fundamental analysis on cryptocurrencies. All right, let's jump right in. Bitcoin giant Bitmain rivals GPU maker Nvidia in profits, analysts say. So Bitmain is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Bitcoin miner creator of ASIC miners, so-called specialized hardware that is produced and used in order to mine Bitcoin more efficiently. So what you do is you take the most important elements of a computer, in this case the GPU, and you optimize it in a way so that people can actually mine Bitcoins much more efficiently and with lower cost than when you would plug in a full computer. So Bitmain is one of the biggest, and they are based in Beijing in China, and they are boasting currently revenues, or actually profits, operating profits of $3 billion and 3 to 4 billion US dollars actually. And what is interesting is that the California-based chip maker Nvidia, which is one of the biggest GPU makers and creators in the world, has a much bigger market capitalization of 147 billion, but only has generated a profit of 3 billion in 2017. Now, obviously the comparison comes up because a lot of Nvidia GPUs are also being used for Bitcoin mining. That's why, for example, the gamers are complaining because there is a shortage of GPU graphic cards on the market, because a lot of Bitcoin miners are actually buying up all the GPUs on the market. So this is a very interesting comparison, but obviously one of the main reasons why Bitmain has generated such a lot of amount in terms of money value is simply because Bitcoin has risen prices, the price of Bitcoin has risen extremely in the last year. So obviously this will play a role. And in the article it also says Bitmain shrewdly adjusts the prices of miners according to Bitcoin prices. So depending whether Bitcoin is high or low, depending on that, they will adjust their pricing. And that's this dynamic type of pricing obviously makes sense in a market that is going up, because the demand is just simply there, and it continues to be there. So Bitmain has actually some revenue generating channels, and they are highlighted here. For the podcast listeners, they are basically Bitcoin ASIC design, miner manufacturer, the miners, the mining pool, and then a mining cloud service. So they are hosting different parts of the supply chain and creating, actually their main business is the ASIC design. So they are creating those miners by designing the ASIC chips themselves. Then they manufacture them, then they create those miners which they are selling, and they also create and help the mining pool. So there are different pools you can participate in, and there you can buy a share of a pool, for example, and then you will be rewarded with part of that share as well. And for example, one of those is Ant Pool. Then there's also a mining cloud service which works in a similar way. And what is also interesting in the case of Bitmain, because we have talked a bit about in the last, I want to say, couple of weeks, we've talked about the crackdown in China that happened from the government. So the government has disallowed ICOs and cryptocurrencies, as well as cryptocurrency exchanges, and this obviously also will hit the miners there. So Bitmain has actually moved, or partly moved, or expanded parts of the operation to Zug in Switzerland, which is considered the crypto valley. And they have also diversified their business operations to Israel, Canada, and Singapore over the last year. So both Singapore and Switzerland are fairly friendly when it comes to cryptocurrencies. They have actually, in terms of Switzerland, for example, they have actually come out and say, we want to build this crypto value, we want to be part of it. So they are definitely in this area, and Israel, Canada, and Singapore also want to position themselves to be cryptocurrency friendly. Nonetheless, Nvidia's stock price has risen in the last year. Part of the reason why, though, is because Nvidia is selling more GPUs to gamers. Now, one part is saying that Nvidia doesn't actually want to do that because they are hurting their main business, which is gamers, and if gamers are annoyed, they will go to the competition. But Nvidia actually realizes that cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin miners, I mean, it makes a big part of their business, so they are actually interested, obviously, in selling GPUs to Bitcoin miners. What we could think could happen is actually that Nvidia will diversify the business even further and maybe even create like a separate branch that produces solely for Bitcoin miners, and the other branches are still focused on gaming, for example. So that would be one way how Nvidia could increase and expand the business even further. But other than this, I think Bitmain is a really interesting company, and I think I hope that the competition in the market will continue, because while Bitmain versus Nvidia is interesting, I think Bitmain itself needs strong competitors in order for prices to come down and in order for these ASIC designs to become even better. Because currently what the situation is that Bitmain is mainly one of the biggest suppliers of these ASIC miners, and they're currently like a lot of times they are sold out, and they do produce the best ones in the market, but that's mainly because they have such a big market share. Now, next up, a bit of a rant, I want to say. Here is an article: user interfaces will bridge educational gap and enhance the adoption of cryptocurrencies. There's a really interesting article generally about user interfaces and how it's fairly difficult for newbies, new people who come into cryptocurrencies, who want to buy cryptocurrency, understand cryptocurrencies, that the whole process is rather cumbersome. And I want to leave the article for you guys, but it's generally in the article it says that in order for crypto adoption to become even higher and bigger, one of the things that needs to change is user interface and user experience. So without improving that part, the education part will be a bit difficult to do. So as long as, for example, cryptocurrency exchanges are very cumbersome, difficult to use, this will be a problem. And here, a bit of a more personal rant. Let's take, for example, two of the biggest altcoin exchanges, so Binance and Bittrex. Now, Binance and Bittrex are huge exchanges. So here I have a screenshot from Bittrex. I've Googled the screenshot, so it's not mine or anything. And once you logged in and you tap on markets, this is more or less what you see. So you see, for example, here the Ethereum, you see the prices, you see the candles, you see a bit of the volume here, and then you can either sell or buy Ethereum down below. Now here already it starts. This is for a non-trader. This is actually quite confusing. So the candle view already, the volume, all of these things, like for a non-trader, this is not really helping. And I don't know what the bid is, what the ask is. Of course I know, but like as a newbie, for example, I don't know what the bid is and ask is, what a latest means, what the ask here is, the type of order, all of these things. So this is something that I think needs to improve immensely. So let's take a look at Binance, for example. Binance here, it's IOTA and BTC, very similar. So although we don't have the candles here, we have the volume. It's a lot of colors. There is limit, market, stop limit, and the favorites, trade history, the prices, the buy and sell walls, all of these things. And while these buttons are working, and try to look at it from a user perspective that has not been using cryptocurrencies in the past before. So let's say these users come through the registration process, get verified, understand what two-factor authentication is and all of these things, and they just want to trade cryptocurrencies and store them safely. There is no way that beginners will understand how this works. And this is, for example, an area that I think will have to improve immensely in order for mass adoption of cryptocurrencies. So while I am not against Binance or Bittrex in any way, we actually do recommend them from time to time. And a great example, in my opinion, is Coinbase. Now, Coinbase is for the masses, and don't forget, Coinbase has made revenues of $1 billion in 2017, so they must be doing something right. And already here, if you can see, the view is very, very different. So you have a dashboard, you can buy, sell, send, request, accounts, tools, settings. You see a price chart, no volume, no candles. You see, very simple. You can do 1 hour, 1 day. So the price chart already is much, much simpler. You see your portfolio. You can select here what kind of, whether you have euros or Bitcoin or Ethereum. You can look at your accounts and all of these things. And it's kept much, much simpler all over. So if you compare these two screenshots, it's clear why Coinbase, for example, or let's say take Bittrex, because here you can send US dollars or euros directly. It is kind of clear why Coinbase is handling so much more volume, because it is just geared towards the masses. Now, obviously, you could say that, for example, Binance is more for the experienced trader, is more for the altcoin trader, and I would totally agree with that. However, what I would suggest to Binance or to Bittrex in this case is just maybe start with a simpler overview and then offer the more advanced views to the people who actually want it. I think it's not either or. I think it should go hand in hand. And I think, for example, Bittrex there has it a bit easier. So it actually looks quite similar to this view, except that this is more of a dashboard view and this is more of a specific pricing view. But also here you see the chart, you see a buy or sell, and here you see the chart. Normally you could do buy and sell here as well, and then you have your portfolio on the right. So I think in general, Bittrex and Binance, in order, I mean, obviously these are very, very profitable businesses, don't get me wrong, but it would be nice to actually see a bit more user-friendly behavior. Now, the user-friendliness doesn't just stop at the exchanges. Obviously, this needs to go way, way further. For example, how to transfer cryptocurrencies to the wallet, how a wallet works, all of these things. These are all education problems. And obviously, our YouTube channel or podcast is one way how you can educate yourself. But if you're listening to this podcast or watching this video, you already are kind of familiar with cryptocurrencies. So you are not really in the need of an education, because you're already trying to educate yourself. But I'm talking more about the people who read about Bitcoin in the newspapers and want to get started, but it's just way, way too confusing for them. So my ask for the crypto community is actually, please make those exchanges at least a bit better, maybe educate your users a bit more, and show them how to transfer the currencies away from the exchanges as well, just to be on the safe side, because that's much better than getting hacked and then having to apologize or maybe even spending money to refund those people. And yeah, the Coinbase example stands. I think it's a good example. It's obviously not perfect, but I think this is going towards the right direction. But I will link this article below. You can read it and build your own opinion. And I think we have to keep this discussion going about user interfaces, user experience in general. And with that, guys, I'm already at the end of today's episode. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and send it to a friend who doesn't know a lot about cryptocurrencies. In the beginning, it will be difficult, but with time, the person will understand what it is all about. And don't forget the free report, bluealpineresearch.com/free-report, to get your free cryptocurrency research report, and where we show you how we do fundamental analysis on a very specific cryptocurrency. That's quite interesting. So with that, I wish you a happy Saturday, and we'll see each other tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.